Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast.
And what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast, if I could speak English today. I'm your host today, Christopher Felice, and I am joined by my boy, Joe Capozzi. Joe, how are we doing tonight?
Oh, we're doing good. It's off-season, combine's coming up. It's a couple weeks away, so that's going to be exciting to see kind of the diamonds in the rough showing their stuff. All these no-name guys, these no-name guys that aren't on your draft boards right now are going to be shooting up when they run a fast 40, and it's going to be great.
It's crazy. It's so close now. You know, like it was like the Super Bowl just ended, and we're like now, like it feels like it just happened. We're now getting the combine, kind of getting into it. It'll be September before we know it.
Yeah, I'm excited. So this is the perfect, still prime off season, and that's why we're going to talk about the thing we're talking about today. And
Yes,
Chris,
sir.
what are we talking about today?
Yeah, we're going to be talking about some players that we're looking at to buy, hold, and sell. Is our topic. We each have chosen a player in those categories, and our thoughts are we buying them, holding them, are we selling them? What's our thought process? But before we get into that really fast, I just want to say a quick congrats to our cohort here on the Heroes Fantasy Football podcast. Matt High had his kid. Everyone is plenty healthy, so congrats to them. But yeah, without further ado and with that out of the way, let's just kind of burst on into it. So as we had mentioned before, we each have a buy, a hold, and a sell candidate here for a player. So we're gonna go into it. We'll go with the buys first. Joe, if you want to go ahead and start us off, who is your, and we're talking about a perspective for Dynasty in case that wasn't obvious. We'll say Superflex for the sake of simplicity, although I don't think it's gonna matter. Who is your buy for this offseason?
So my buy candidate right now is Rome Odunze. And let me tell you why. Rome Odunze, we saw what he did in college. He looked like a force to be reckoned with. We projected early first-round wide receiver. He went to the Bears where everyone's excited. New quarterback, new wide receiver. What could go wrong? Well, you have a rookie wide receiver and a rookie quarterback at the same time. I think we've been spoiled on rookie wide receivers because this isn't a typical thing where they come out and they're just balling out left and right. And I think the perfect example is Jackson Smith-Njigba. His freshman year, he looked pretty irrelevant, to put it point blank. And this last season, he looked awesome. He did amazing. And I don't think that we should judge Odunze based off of his freshman performance with a freshman quarterback. I mean, it's like a double they say a double negative equals a positive, and not in this case. It was a big negative. But I have high hopes for him. He was also in a pretty crowded wide receiver room. I mean, going with Keenan Allen and got DJ there. So I don't think even if he was balling out, like he would get the ball every time because there's so much talent in that room. I think that Caleb should take a big step forward, ideally, next year. And I think Odunze is also going to take a step forward. I think this is going to be the lowest his price is, especially going into next season as it gets closer. So I think now is the time to buy. I would be offering an early second-round pick, try to get the deal done. He was like a 6th, 7th round pick in the year he came out, so he's dropped a little bit because he didn't blow up his freshman year. So if you can get him for an early second round, I would get that deal done.
Okay. All right. I'll kind of piggyback off of there. Same team. I have buy DJ Moore. Somewhat similar aspect here, besides the, of course, rookie part of it. You know, new team, new quarterback. There was some tumultuous feelings there that no one can argue that. Still put up good numbers. I believe he finished as the wide receiver 16 overall in the season, which is pretty good considering the struggles that team had. We know what he can do, given the year prior, he was within the top 10 with Justin Fields. So we know exactly kind of where expectations should be met here. I think at this time we kind of I'm willing to take the gamble that team improves drastically between now and next season. And that, I mean, I also heard Odunze buy, either of these two players will, I feel like, immensely help your team. If you can get them at a decent discount now, I feel like it will pay dividends later on.
Yeah, 100% agree with that.
With that being said, that is our buy. Let's move along to our holds today. Joe, who are you holding on your team?
My hold is Bryce Young. We all know he started off. Andy Dalton was on the team. We're like, oh, Bryce Young, he's a bust. He's not going to do anything. He missed a couple games. Andy Dalton was starting. He came in at the end of the season, and he looked good. He looked really good, especially if you look at the Panthers as a team. You don't think they're a very high-power offense, but he made them look like a pretty high-power offense.
They have Chubbard.
Oh, yeah, great. But
wow.
I think his price is it's not low, super low because of how well he just did, but it's also not, I think, as high as it should be for him. So that's why he's my hold candidate. I want to see more from him. I want to see what he does with even better weapons around him. So I'm holding him. I think he's going to be a very solid quarterback next season. So don't sell him for the medium price that he's at right now. Hold. I think he's going to be worth more in the future. And let's see what he can do.
So hypothetically speaking, okay, someone comes to you with a trade, right? I know you're holding him, right? But I mean, unless if this is a case where he doesn't have a price, we are to assume that all players have a price on them when dealing in trades like this. So someone comes to you with a trade. What needs to be in that trade to get Bryce Young?
Especially if he's one of my quarterbacks, it's going to have to be another quarterback that is on the younger side. I don't want Matt Stafford for Bryce Young or anything like that, or Aaron Rodgers for Bryce Young. It would have to be someone. Something maybe like a Kyler for a Bryce Young, or I don't know if I would trade Bryce for T-Law right now with how he's been playing. Bo Nix, he probably wouldn't get that trade, but I'd take Bo Nix for Bryce Young. I think
probably have to give more.
Yeah, a realistic trade in my head, I would probably take Kyler for Bryce Young. And here's an interesting one for you. If you had Bryce Young, Chris, would you take a trade for Michael Penix? Played a very little, but is now the starter. Kind of an unproven rookie still. You wouldn't take the shot?
No, I don't think so. I think if quarterback's really iffy, and unfortunately, especially now, because I feel like there are barely any quarterbacks from college that get out there into the league that are actually league ready. I feel like Bryce Young has shown me enough to where he will at least be like an okay QB. At least middling, somewhere between the top 20 and top 15 mark. And sometimes it just has to be something you're okay with. A team that's good at everything is so rare. You have to be okay with making concessions at some places to be better at other places. And if that's kind of where my team is at, I think I'm just going to roll with those punches. So I'm going to say no to the Michael Penix.
I'm on the same boat as you. I've proven overshot. I mean, it's not like Bryce Young is an older player either. He's still pretty young himself. So
right.
You got some years. But who's your hold, Chris?
Yeah, so I have a very surprising one. I got Cooper Kupp as my hold. Now, a bit controversial, I know. He's probably not going to be on the Rams. You'd have to assume there's probably a 90% chance right now that he's somewhere else. The only reason why he wouldn't that he would stay on the Rams is because I assume that the Rams couldn't find a trade suitor, but I have a feeling they'll find a place for him to go. The reason why I say hold on to Cooper Kupp, I got two reasons for you. Reason number one, the odds of you getting what I would consider a fair market value for Cooper Kupp, I feel as if is low. Because it's really hard to evaluate Cooper Kupp. I feel like no matter what, there isn't going to be a fair value. People are going to try to lowball you. And that's the unfortunate kind of scenario that they're in. Because, the injury history, going to a new team, don't know what that new team is going to do, who they are, what their structure is. It's very tough. This is a player that I would need to hold on to. If I am in a rebuilding phase and I have Cooper Kupp, I am holding on to him. I am gambling with it. I'm hoping he produces at least somewhat decent numbers and then trading him to a competitive team. Somewhere down that later stretch of the season. If I am going for a win now scenario, I feel like you're going to get very few players, for Cooper Kupp. And I don't know if you want whatever random draft picks you're going to get for him. Just use them. Like it is what it is. It's kind of a sucky situation, but you kind of just have to deal with it. So that's for that reason. I'm going to say hold Cooper Cup.
Yeah, his price is at an all-time low right now with the uncertainty of what team, the past season with the injury. And I was one of those people that was trying to lowball you.
You were.
You wanted a first. I think you wanted a first for him,
did.
and I was not giving a first for.
No one did. I got pretty close. I got close, and I got early second, but I decided that wasn't enough. But I got that close. Early being like I think 2-4 or something like that. I think that was the earliest I could have gotten. I think that's what I ended up being. But yeah, so
I agree with that.
But yeah, moving on here, we have our players that we would like to sell from our teams that we hate so much that we would love to get. No, I'm kidding. But Joe, who do you want to sell from your team?
So this one might be a controversial one, but my sell for right now is Tyrone Tracy.
Yeah.
And you might be like, well, he is the starting young rookie running back on a team. Why are we selling him? The Giants were a disaster, and we would know we're Giants fans. They look terrible. The team's going to go through some huge changes. This draft class is arguably one of the best running back draft classes in the last 5 years. I could see, and I've already seen reports that the Giants have talked to Genti. Not saying that that's what's going to happen, but I would trade him before the combine, before the draft. In the off chance that they draft a running back, I could see Tracy's snaps significantly decreasing and his job even being in jeopardy if they draft. I mean, he's a round 5 pick. If they take a day 2 or 3 guy from this running back class, I could easily see him splitting carries or even getting the workhorse job. Or not the workhorse job, but getting the start over Tracy and Tracy being like the pass down back or something. It worries me if I own Tracy. His price right now is, I think, at an all-time high. When you go to trade him, you could argue with whoever you're trading, be like, well, this is a starting rookie running back you're getting. He's young. He's the starter. Look, he did pretty well even being on the Giants. So you want this guy. That would be my sales pitch, and try to get something for him before his value perhaps plummets. I could be wrong. They could not draft any running backs, and he has another great year next year. But in the off chance that they do, and the Giants, his position is not safe. No one's position is safe on the Giants right now. I think maybe Neighbors might be the only safe position on the Giants, but everyone else is up for change or trade or cut or anything. So in that regard, I would sell Tyrone Tracy.
That was definitely controversial. Part of me that slightly disagrees with you, but there's definitely part of me that understands the logic here. As you had pointed out before, all-time high value, definitely something that you could exploit, given the sort of uncertainty heading into the draft and knowing that there are going to be probably drastic changes, not just this offseason, but with multiple off seasons in the future. I mean, the odds that the Giants turn around in one season are basically 0, right? You have to imagine. So this is definitely going to be at least a 2-year or 3-year rebuild, which means that within those 2 or 3 years, Tyrone Tracy could take the backseat to someone in the draft class or someone they sign, whatever the case may be. So it's not even just the threat of this year. It could also be the threat of next year's class as well. I mean, look at Rachaad White. There's many of us that were like, oh, okay, Rachaad White's time is probably dwindling into an extent, and then we kind of find, but he'll be fine for the next couple of years until they drafted Bucky Irving this past year. So I think Rachaad White was his 3rd year into the league, 2nd year into the league, I believe, one of those two. So that didn't last long at all until they were already shopping for a replacement. Kind of similar deal for that. So I can understand the logic here. What are you, looking for? What would you sell Tyrone Tracy for? In return.
That's a good question. I think you can arguably get a first round for him. I think there's someone out there that needs running back. You could be like, hey, this guy's young. He's a starter. I want a first for him. It might not be this year, might be a future first, but I still think I would take that. So,
all right. I'll round us out here. My sell is Brandon Ayuk. Once again, maybe it's slightly controversial, but after the whole debacle last season with conversations for more money, then getting hurt, underperforming, the 49ers window of being competitive is rapidly closing. They will eventually have to pay up for Brock Purdy. They will be losing, Christian McCaffrey, God knows what's going to happen to him. Those players, the players in the team, are all stand out. They're all good, but they also very much benefited from every single one of them being an all-star. And one by one, as time goes on, they can't just have all of them. There are money constraints. As much as we like to say that the cap doesn't exist and whatnot, that only exists so much. Eventually it's going to catch up to them, and it's rapidly closing. I would argue that within the next couple of years, the team's going to go through an insane amount of changes because of just, aging players getting out of there. Trades are going to happen with this, also uncertainty of Debo, is he going to be there, the trade, blah, blah, blah. What are the 49ers doing? I don't like Ayuk. In my head, he sounds like he would be the future, but a part of me thinks that, is he actually the guy? Maybe not. I think I would sell him now. I think I could easily get a first-round pick for Ayuk in some facet, maybe throw in something else in there to get the first if I need to, I guess, maybe a third or whatever, but I feel like I could do that. I think I would rather take the shot on someone else than to get Ayuk. I mean, we can't also forget, I'm blanking on the name, please remind me. Nope, I got it, Ricky Pearsall. First-round draft capital last year on the Niners. He didn't look bad when he finally got time. Is he going to usurp Brandon Ayuk at some point here? Do I really want this second fiddle guy on my team? So all I'm trying to say here is that maybe considering selling Ayuk. Don't know if I really want him in the long term. Might be good this next upcoming year. And then after that, probably will fall downhill. That's my prediction.
That's a hot take. I don't necessarily disagree with you. I've never been a huge 49ers receiver fan just because there's so much talent there. I mean, you got George Kittle, you got Debo, you got Ricky Pearsall, you got Ayuk. I mean, those are all great players. Yeah. And that's too many mouths to feed. They can't all shine every game. So it's one or the other, and then the others dry up and you get dud weeks. So I've never been a fan of that. But then again, I don't think they're all going to be there all the time. So I agree with Chris. This is probably right now is you're going to get a lot for Ayuk, which could change very soon, depending on if he's still there or if bearing injury. But it depends on what you would get for him. I mean, as Chris said, every player has a price. If the price is too good, you're obviously going to trade even your favorite player on your dynasty team. If someone's offering you the world for him, you're probably going to trade him.
We were just talking about that actually before the show. In a different dynasty league that I was in, I had CeeDee Lamb, and there was no discussion. There was no sort of negotiations to this. I had received, this was during the season, I had received a trade offer for 3 firsts, 3 seconds. We have defensive players in this league, so a defensive player. I forgot Josh Downs and then Jordan Love for only CeeDee Lamb. And I'm like, it's one of those things where it's yeah, I'll take it. Whatever. I'll find a CeeDee Lamb replacement between the next 3 years of first round picks from this guy, I guess. And everything else I'm getting from it, so he's right. There is a price for pretty much every single player, unless if you, for some reason, have this insane sort of feeling for them, like Matt High does with Tim Patrick. Sorry, have to do you like that.
Or Anthony Richardson.
Or just had a kid. Doesn't matter. No.
Kick him right down.
He can't defend himself. Yeah. No, but yeah.
Matt's in the hospital on his phone going, oh.
No. Oh man, I can't spread my Richardson propaganda. No. Oh, we
But
can.
pretty much what we're saying is don't be afraid to sell your good players if you're getting good value back.
Correct. That is exactly what we're saying. But yeah, with that, that's our episode here for today. Hope you found it insightful. We not going anywhere. We have plenty of other topics to talk about. Combine coming up. After that, we got the draft. We'll have plenty of stuff to do. But hey, that's for another day. So for now, we hope that you all have an excellent rest of your day, night, midday, tomorrow, whatever, whenever you're watching this. We hope you have a fantastic rest of your whatever, and we'll see you all very, very soon.